The post-Cold War era is definitively over. The relative stability and perceived peace that followed the fall of the Berlin Wall are now distant memories. We've entered a new chapter, one characterized by uncertainty and a palpable sense of unease. The optimism of the 1990s, that brief window of hope for a more cooperative and peaceful world, has vanished, seemingly overnight. The promise of globalization bringing nations closer together has given way to division. It's been replaced by a pervasive sense of anxiety and growing instability across the globe. People are worried about the future, about the prospects for their children, and about the very real possibility of large-scale conflict. Headlines warn of a devastating war raging in Eastern Europe, a conflict that threatens to spill over and engulf the entire continent. The specter of a wider European war looms large. Simultaneously, we see rising tensions escalating rapidly in the Taiwan Strait, a potential flashpoint that could trigger a global crisis with unimaginable consequences. The stakes are incredibly high. Global military spending has hit a record high of $2.4 trillion in 2023, an astounding figure that underscores the depth of the current global insecurity. Nations are arming themselves at an unprecedented rate. This massive expenditure reflects a world teetering on the edge of something dangerous, a world on edge, bracing for potential conflict. The map of the world is increasingly dotted with areas of instability and active conflict. The dream of permanent peace and global cooperation, a dream that seemed within reach after the Soviet collapse, has been utterly shattered. The optimism of that era feels like a distant memory. We now face a world increasingly defined by raw power politics, where national interests are pursued ruthlessly and without regard for international norms. It's a geopolitical chess game with incredibly high stakes. This is a world of rapidly shifting alliances, where old partnerships are strained and new ones are forged in response to perceived threats. The geopolitical landscape is constantly in flux. The unipolar moment of U.S. dominance, the era when America stood as the sole superpower, has definitively ended. The global order is no longer centered around a single hegemon. It's been replaced by increasing fragmentation and intensifying great power rivalry, as nations compete for influence and resources in a multipolar world. The world is becoming increasingly divided. International institutions, organizations like the UN, are increasingly paralyzed by geopolitical divisions and a lack of consensus among major powers. Their ability to address global challenges is severely hampered. Furthermore, international law, the very foundation of a rules-based global order, is routinely ignored and flouted by the powerful nations when it suits their interests. The concept of accountability is eroding. Smaller nations caught in the crossfire of great power competition are increasingly forced to pick sides in a dangerous and high-stakes game. Their sovereignty and autonomy are often compromised. The Global Peace Index, a comprehensive measure of global peacefulness, shows a steady and alarming decline year after year, indicating a worsening security environment worldwide. State-based conflicts, wars between nations, are at a post-World War II high, demonstrating the increasing willingness of states to resort to military force to achieve their objectives. As a direct consequence of these conflicts, refugee numbers are soaring to unprecedented levels, placing immense strain on host countries and international aid organizations. This surge in displacement is primarily driven by the devastating war in Ukraine, which has forced millions of Ukrainians to flee their homes and seek refuge in neighboring countries. The ongoing conflict in Sudan has also contributed significantly to the global refugee crisis, displacing millions more and creating a humanitarian catastrophe. And the crisis extends far beyond these two countries, with conflicts and instability in numerous other regions contributing to a global displacement crisis of unprecedented scale. Adding to the instability, economic fragmentation is accelerating, as the globalized economy begins to break down into competing blocks. This fragmentation is driven by nations increasingly turning to protectionism, erecting trade barriers, and weaponizing trade as tools of foreign policy. Interdependence, once seen as a source of strength and mutual benefit, is now increasingly viewed as a vulnerability, a potential point of leverage for adversaries. The international institutions built after 1945, designed to promote cooperation and prevent conflict, are struggling to adapt to this rapidly changing world. In this new era, every gain for one power is often perceived as a direct loss for another, fostering a zero-sum mentality that exacerbates tensions and undermines cooperation. This zero-sum thinking is fueling a dangerous cycle of military buildup, escalating tensions, and deepening mistrust between nations. The result is a world that is demonstrably more chaotic, more unstable, and more unpredictable than it has been in decades. It's a world that is more violent, more prone to conflict, and more unpredictable than at any time in recent memory, a truly dangerous and uncertain era. In this tense and uncertain environment, the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what the future holds. The stakes have never been higher. The US-China rivalry is not just a geopolitical issue, it's the central axis of global tension, influencing everything from trade to technological innovation and military strategy. It's a defining struggle of our time. This is more than a trade war. It goes beyond tariffs and trade imbalances. It's a clash of systems and ambitions, a fundamental disagreement on how the world should be governed and what values should prevail. It's a competition for influence and leadership on the global stage. China, under Xi Jinping, has become increasingly assertive, openly challenges US primacy, seeking to reshape the international order to better reflect its own interests and values. This challenge extends to all domains, from economics and technology to military power and diplomatic influence, especially in the South China Sea, where it has built artificial islands and asserted expansive territorial claims and global institutions, seeking to reform them in ways that enhance its own power and influence. China's growing role in international organizations is reshaping the global landscape. The military balance is shifting, with China rapidly modernizing its armed forces, with China's navy now the world's largest, posing a direct challenge to US naval dominance in the Indo-Pacific region. Taiwan is the flashpoint, a democratic island that China claims as its own. A conflict there could trigger a major international crisis, a catastrophic war between nuclear powers, with potentially devastating consequences for the entire world. Economically, the US and China are decoupling, reducing their reliance on each other, building rival tech ecosystems, each seeking to dominate key industries of the future, and weaponizing supply chains, using economic leverage to achieve strategic goals. The era of frictionless globalization is over. The world is becoming more fragmented and contested. National security now trumps efficiency, as countries prioritize resilience and self-reliance. The ideological battle is fierce, a clash of values and political systems, democracy versus autocracy, a struggle for the hearts and minds of people around the world, with both sides vying for global influence, seeking to shape the international order in their own image. China's Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure development project, and US-led coalitions, alliances, and partnerships are dividing the world into competing camps, creating new geopolitical fault lines. The rivalry is more complex than the Cold War, with deeper economic interdependence and more diffuse power dynamics, thanks to deep economic ties, which make decoupling a difficult and costly process. The stakes are existential, with the potential for conflict and instability on a global scale. And the world is being forced to choose sides, navigating a complex and dangerous geopolitical landscape. The outcome will define the 21st century, shaping the future of global power, economic prosperity, and international security. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is the most immediate threat to European security. Putin's war is a direct challenge to the post-Cold War order and the principle of national sovereignty. The conflict has become a brutal war of attrition, drawing in vast Western support and revitalizing NATO. Yet cracks in Western unity are emerging as costs mount and political winds shift. Russia uses energy, cyber attacks, and disinformation to destabilize its adversaries and exploit divisions. Isolated from the West, Moscow has deepened ties with China, forming a bloc of authoritarian powers. Europe is rearming, and the continent is more divided and militarized than at any time since 1989. The Middle East remains a crucible of instability, with local conflicts amplified by global rivalries. The Iran-Saudi-Israel Cold War, proxy battles, and Iran's nuclear ambitions threaten to ignite a regional war. The risk of a preemptive Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities could draw in the US and unleash massive retaliation. The Strait of Hormuz is a global choke point. Any disruption would spike energy prices and trigger global recession. US retrenchment has created a power vacuum, inviting China and Russia to expand their influence. The region is now more multipolar and dangerously unpredictable. The old Cold War alliances have given way to a fluid transactional world. Middle powers like India, Brazil, and Turkey pursue multi-alignment, maximizing autonomy and influence. The expanded BRICS bloc and alternative financial systems challenge Western dominance. The US is reinforcing alliances in the Indo-Pacific, building flexible security pacts like the Quad and AUKUS. These new arrangements risk deepening global divides and creating hardened blocs. In a multi-aligned world, commitments are uncertain and miscalculations more likely. The world is a geopolitical marketplace where alliances shift rapidly and crises can escalate globally. The new landscape is volatile and treacherous. The global economy is now a battleground for great power competition. Free trade is giving way to economic nationalism and protectionism. The US-China tech war is redrawing supply chains and raising costs worldwide. Financial sanctions isolate adversaries but fuel a push for de-dollarization and alternative payment systems. Friendshoring and geopolitical risk now drive investment decisions, fragmenting the global economy. Regional blocs are replacing global integration, raising the risk of conflict. Economic interdependence, once a brake on war, is now a source of vulnerability. A divided global economy is a more dangerous one. The world stands at a critical crossroads, a pivotal moment in history where the decisions we make today will reverberate for decades to come. We are faced with several possible futures, each with its own unique set of challenges and opportunities. The path ahead is uncertain, and the choices we make now will determine the course of our shared destiny. One potential scenario, a devastating great power war. A conflict of this magnitude would have catastrophic consequences for the entire world. This could be sparked by tensions in regions like Taiwan or the Baltics. A full-scale war would inevitably collapse the already fragile international order, leading to widespread instability and uncertainty. It would unleash chaos on a global scale, impacting every nation and every individual. Another possible future, a protracted new Cold War, characterized by ideological division and geopolitical rivalry. This scenario would see the emergence of two hostile blocs, paralyzed international institutions unable to effectively address global challenges. It would also lead to endless proxy conflicts, as the major powers vie for influence in different regions of the world. A third possibility, a state of tense multipolarity, where power is distributed among several major actors. In this world, middle powers play a crucial role in preventing a clean bipolar split, acting as mediators and bridge builders between the major powers. Alliances are fluid and constantly shifting, and diplomatic friction is a constant feature of the international landscape. Each of these potential paths is fraught with danger and uncertainty, presenting significant risks to global peace and stability. However, multipolarity may offer the best hope of avoiding a catastrophic global conflict, providing opportunities for cooperation and compromise. The upcoming US election, the ongoing war in Ukraine, and China's strategic moves concerning Taiwan will be decisive factors in shaping the future of the international order. The tectonic plates of global power are shifting beneath our feet, creating new challenges and opportunities. The era of complacency is definitively over, and we must be prepared to face the challenges ahead with courage and determination. The age of danger is undeniably here, demanding vigilance and proactive engagement from all nations. The choices made now by leaders and citizens alike will irrevocably shape the world for generations to come. The margin for error is rapidly shrinking, and the consequences of miscalculation could be dire. The stakes in this global game could not be any higher, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. The world is watching with bated breath, and waiting to see what choices